Good morning, everybody. Another bright and early Thursday morning. I'm Evelyn Thoren. I am your host up until around the 8 o'clock time frame.
Well, Glenn's coming earlier, right?
Glenn's going to be coming early. You got to wait till I finish the statement. You can
Glenn's
see
her husband.
Yes, so you can see on the screen, the bottom of the screen, that he'll be coming in at some point, usually after 6:30. But I know that he'd be here sitting with me at 6 o'clock, but there's a lot of stuff we can talk about or not talk about, and I have a whole list of things. I sent a lot of different articles just to fill in the time, and we'll probably get to some things that maybe some people may not like to listen to. I'm sure they'll shut the TV off or be screaming at us at some point. You never know, but it is cold out there, very, very cold. And because it is cold, you want to be careful of black ice.
And windy.
Yeah, John said it's windy. You can see that on the pictures that he has with the flag outside of this particular location. So you can see the flag about mid screen in there, and so there is a little bit of a wind chill factor, but it's not straight out. And
It's
that, but
dark.
and you
That's
can
why
see,
it's so blurry.
yeah, you can see how much snow is like everywhere. We are scheduled to have some kind of a storm, but it looks to me
Well,
like
that
it.
quit. It's mad at us now.
What's
We'll
mad
get
at us? The whole thing?
The camera thing just quit. Get
Oh,
mad at
well, maybe it's really cold. But there are a number of things in terms of cold weather that you want to be aware of. One is that, like, for instance, when I got into my van this morning and started to drive, the little yellow light comes on because as a new vehicle, it does have indicators on my tires. And because it's so cold, the tires are low. As the day warms up, those numbers will come up. I don't have leaks in my tires, brand new vehicle, but that may be something that you see, and I personally wouldn't be too worried about it, but I'm just letting you know that's one indicator. Another is to make sure that you do have, you're dressed warm enough, and if you have remote start in your car, if you're in the suburbs, I don't know that any police are out there checking to see whether or not you start in your car or not. Actually being in it,
See, if
getting
the
new
police are what?
regulations. Well, they've got new regulations that you're not supposed to have your car idling for any particular period
Where?
of time.
Where?
Different states. You can look it up and ask.
I ain't gonna look it up.
I know. Well, I'll look it up at some point. But
Don't
you just
bother.
want to be careful what it is that you're doing.
The hell with him.
regard
It's
to
a
that.
cold day.
Huh?
Show me a police cruiser that's not running right now.
I agree with you there. I'm just saying to you
They'll just look the
that
other
there's
way.
a lot of different things out there with the climate police. They're still there, regardless. And so anyway, they said they were supposed to have a storm, but in listening to
There's our view of the flag on the corner of Highwood and South, and it's windy and it's 2 below zero. So
yes, when I got up, it was 1. When I drove in, it was -3 until, of course, the car heats up a little bit. And like I said, be careful driving. Some places they have pushed the snow so high you can't see around corners. So be very cautious with regard to that. It's not going to melt real soon. And if Bob Hoey was here, we'd be talking about the snow melt and how much groundwater it may generate because many people in New England are on wells. So all of this snow is good for the environment, may not be good for our municipal budgets, especially with storms on weekends, paying overtime. But we have...
do you guys still get salt out there in Chesford?
You have salt because you got the stormwater act.
No, I mean,
whatever.
the state's running out of salt.
Oh, I
on
don't know
TV,
anything.
they're talking about that.
I don't know anything about the state running out of salt. It just shows short-sightedness on their part. I have some other articles going on with what's going on in the state of Massachusetts. I've got all kinds of stuff. It's just a question of whether or not
let's
it
get
gets up on the
started
screen.
on it.
So, anyway, as far as weather goes, there was supposed to be this huge storm that they didn't know anything about. They're tracking it. They seem to think it's going to be more coastal, or it actually
There
may
might be
go
snow
out to
Sunday.
Well, it would be Sunday evening. But for people to be aware of it, and it was funny because on the news they go, try not to, you don't need 20 packages of toilet paper. There are certain things, it's all on the internet as far as what you should have.
I'm giving Channel 5 a couple of weeks off.
Oh, you're going to continue to listen to Channel 5?
The woman, Cindy, the weather girl, she said, "Oh, I'll tell you about the accumulations in a minute, couple of minutes." An hour later. Goodbye, Cindy, and the rest of
They don't know. Now, they called this. Now, I do access Facebook. I don't respond too much because I I have an opinion. Everybody has opinions. It's almost like if I don't have your opinion, then I get bombarded with all kinds of insults, and I have chosen to just watch and listen and use this maybe more as my forum as far as individuals that are out there. But there was a lot of articles out there on weather, and they talked about this thing called a bomb genesis, which is like a bomb cyclone, and it's defined as when you have a certain number of millibars, that's the pressure, whether you have a high or a low, and we can always look up all the meteorological terms and all the definitions if you really want to, but if it goes down real fast over a period of time and it goes to a certain point, then this is how they define it. And when they originally discussed what was going on with this particular storm, they thought we were going to have a northeaster, and instead of measuring in inches, you would measure in feet. That's because the water coming off the Atlantic Ocean, the water will feed the storm itself and create snow because it's cold instead of warm. Then you'd be measuring rain in inches and how much flooding there would be. So they are concerned about coastal areas because you have high tides coming up this coming weekend. So if anybody has anything that fits into any of those categories, please be aware and take everything under advisement so that you stay safe with regard to weather. Now, the other couple of things that I saw on articles that I thought might be of interest, because we kind of hit on a lot of different kinds of topics. We don't have to have intense, in-detail conversations about them here. One was where they talked about exploding trees, and I thought that was interesting. And so one of the articles is if the temperature drops too fast for the tree to accumulate itself to it, the sap inside the tree will freeze and it will explode. And a lot of people thought that was a novel idea.
Does it make a bang noise?
Well, it actually explodes. It doesn't bang. It explodes like you had like
When you hear an explosion.
Yes, and you can see it.
Does it make a noise?
Yes.
Is my question.
Yes, it does.
Oh.
A bit like big snaps. If you've ever heard a tree fall, when it snaps either under the weight of ice or if lightning hits it, it is an explosion. It sounds like bombs dropping, at least the bombs that you hear on television.
Okay.
Because we haven't really had many of us.
Now, how many trees actually explode in New England on a daily basis?
Well, it depends. I have no idea. It's
One?
I don't know. Because
or is
the
this
article
fictitious? Is this fictitious?
No, it's not, because the last article I read was this morning, and it talked
You
about.
said you've seen it and you've heard it.
No, I didn't say I saw it, and I didn't say I heard it. I said I read an article.
Now you're past 50.
I don't live in the.
You live in suburbia.
Yes, but I don't live in the
many
mid
trees
of
in
the forest.
Chelmsford. Many trees in Chelmsford.
Yes, but it has to be the right conditions.
I don't believe there are exploding trees.
Well, it isn't that the whole tree may explode. It may be that the
I don't believe
branches
it.
do.
I don't believe it.
Well, that's fine. I don't care whether you do or you don't. There are articles out there, and there's one of the articles I read this morning was that the certain individuals, the ones that wrote the articles, didn't really realize that this is something that was actually occurring. However, when you got into Indian, and I mean American Indian history, they didn't think much of it, and it is written in their history about trees exploding or snapping and different things like that. And they had didn't measure.
Next time I'm down at Foxwoods, I'll ask the Indian guy.
You can look it up. I sent you the article, and so So they measured their time by what was happening in natural occurrences. They didn't have our calendar many centuries ago, so they measured it in terms of what was going on in the environment, as whether or not spring was coming, winter was coming. They watched all of the things in nature to give them indication so that they would be prepared for whatever it was that was going to happen with regard to weather. So it's kind of like reading what the clouds are so you know if you're going to have rain or not have rain. There's a lot of stuff that's like that that's out there, but that's one of the things, the articles I read this morning was about exploding trees.
Turn the page of the exploding
Yes, I
tree.
am.
We've
And
heard
so-
enough about the exploding trees
Right,
that
and
no
so
one's
it's-
ever seen.
And so speaking of trees, what happened shortly thereafter, as I'm scrolling down in Google, is that there was an article about the trees that they don't necessarily explode, but they talked about
They burn nice in the fireplace.
Yes, they do,
And they crackle. I've seen them crackle.
Yeah,
and
right. But
spark and
I'm talking about the eucalyptus trees that are out in California, and they are not native to California. They came from Australia. I thought that was interesting. But if you think of koala bears and eating the eucalyptus leaves, and then you have panda bears and all this other stuff, then you know that some of this stuff is not native to our country because the climate would not support it. But with all the eucalyptus trees out there, the article talked about how much oil is in the tree, eucalyptus oil, not oil out of the ground, and that because of the way that the weather is, and if you have lightning storms or lightning strikes, then these trees will also explode, but they explode because they've got content behind it so that they have more fire, like a fireball. And it was not a good match. They decided to have eucalyptus trees out there because they thought it was a fast-growing tree and would help the lumber industry. But the problem is it doesn't. So those are the things on trees. And when we were up in New Hampshire a few weeks back, one of our neighbors said that he was feeding the deer because there were a lack of acorns. So the deer was starting to strip the trees because they were hungry. So if you have problems with trees in your yard, it may be happening down here because we didn't have a lot of acorns for them to be able to eat underneath the snow. And there's different other things that they would eat. So he's in the back nine, he's put stuff way away from the houses and stuff.
what does he feed the deer?
I wanted to ask him, but I haven't had a chance to because we haven't been there. Well, I mean, I haven't. Glenn's been back and forth.
Oh, you're talking about up at the lake.
Yes.
I thought you were talking about in Chesford.
Well, I haven't heard of anybody doing that here. If anybody's listening to us and they are, I'd appreciate knowing. I know that there was a post on Facebook that somebody was going through pounds of birdseed because they were feeding the birds. And sometimes that's an indication if they're really
I don't
super
feed
hungry.
the birds because they load up your windshield.
Well,
With
regardless.
little thank you notes.
Well, that's true, but I don't have too much of that. And
You don't feed the birds.
That's true,
I
but
don't
I don't
feed
feed
the birds either. If you
I don't
feed the
feed the bird-
birds,
I don't feed the birds because of mice. I don't want more mice near my yard, and they would be there with the bird seed. But you have to be careful what you feed birds in this kind of weather. You don't feed them bread. You don't feed them anything wet
why don't you feed them bread?
because when it gets in the stomach, it expands, and it will freeze in this kind of weather. So they die from the inside out. So you have to be cautious what it is you're feeding your animals, and also if you have dogs in your neighborhood and they let them free, you got to be careful what you throw out for animals too, because the dog's going to eat it. The animals that you intended for will not. So there's a lot of useless information this morning, but at least it's something that we can actually talk about.
A note comes in from the audience.
Oh,
Good morning. There's definitely not a shortage of nuts in Mass. Most are our politicians. Clever.
Yeah, we won't talk about that and any allusion to a number of things. So moving into more stuff about weather, there was another article I saw. And I'm not looking this stuff up. It just kind of appears. And it's called Frost Quakes. that if you have a sudden drop in temperature and there's moisture in the ground, you could have rumblings and you could have different things that would happen. And they're finding this in some of the southern states with this weather that we have, is that they're not sure why. Well, some people aren't sure why. They've talked about it. And, and it talks about frost quakes cause loud booms, light shaking when bitterly cold temperatures persist. And I'm trying to see what state this is in. It doesn't tell me.
So when are we going to talk about the Chelmsford elections?
We're going to talk about
Because
Chelmsford
this is
after
like
7 o'clock.
wickedly boring stuff.
Yeah, well, I'm going to get into.
Now, next
I'm
we're going to
waiting
talk
for
about the
Glenn to
texture
come.
of the feathers on the birds. Yes. And now let's talk about the little fur on the deer fur.
I'm not talking about deer fur.
Why
Anyway, the thing with
not?
the large, if you
don't-
have frost quakes, they're called cryoseisms. It's kind of interesting, and they're not. I'm going through this, and it's not telling me where it's generated, but I am assuming that it's not in New England because we would know more about it because it would be something that came up when we grew up because that's where we lived. Also, with a lot of the snow, you want to make sure that your roofs can support it.
How do you clear off your car roof?
Pardon me?
How do you clear off your car roof?
My car roof, I have a broom
Okay.
with a long handle. I also, because I have a van, they make the snow brushes and ice scrapers and stuff long enough so that if you're standing, you don't have to get a ladder to push it off your roof. And you want to make sure that you do that because we still have regulations on how much snow is coming off the roofs of cars as you drive on the highways. But the Home Depot that was in Watertown, Massachusetts, closed because they were concerned about the snow load on the roof because all those roofs are flat.
Well, zippity-doo-dah.
Yeah, so you want to be careful.
Where's the Home Depot closed? I saw it on TV this morning. But
Right, Watertown.
Watertown.
Yep. And somebody was complaining because they wanted to go buy a snowblower and took them 10 hours to shovel out their driveway.
Well, why didn't
We
they
have
buy
a
the
long
snowblower?
driveway, but it wouldn't take me 10 hours to shovel it out. So, anyway, and I'm not doing that. I remember when Glenn used to go on trips and the kids were little and I had the snowblower and I used to have to do all
Snowblowers
of
are
that
nice
stuff.
tools.
Oh yeah, I agree with you.
If they're powerful enough. If you get a weakling, it's just frustration.
Right, so if we're all talking about using wood stoves, you've got fireplaces, any number of things, what do you do with the wood ash that comes out of those places? If you live in the city, I don't know that you'd have wood stoves, so you'd have fireplaces, but instead of putting it in your trash, if you have a compost pile, the suggestion is to take and put it on there, unless you're burning pressure-treated lumber, which you're not supposed to, by the way, because of the there's
It'll
a
kill
lot of
ya.
chemicals in there,
It'll kill you.
and paint. If you have painted wood, anything that isn't just the natural
Especially
wood
if
itself,
it's lead paint.
you have to be careful. But you can put it in your gardens, and it will create more of an alkaline. What do you want to call it? Well, I want to call it alkaline, but a basic situation in the soil. But if you have things like azaleas and rhododendrons, they like acid, so you can't put it around those plants. So you want to check it out before you use it. But we usually put it in the compost piles that we have in our backyard. Doesn't go in the trash, and do it that way. So in case somebody's looking for that, so that, like I said, a lot of different useless information unless you're really interested in those particular things. Going out there this morning. When Glenn gets in here, there's a lot of different things that I put out there as far as having discussion at the 7 o'clock mark. We can talk about Chelmsford now, but it would be better if we just started it off at 7 o'clock. But when we were talking all about the weather, John told me that LTC got flooded. A pipe burst over the weekend. They didn't come in until Tuesday,
That's the rumor.
and that's the rumor that they were underwater.
Their desks were underwater. All the electronic equipment got a good dousing while it was hot and running,
Yep.
and they're gone. Out of business for a while.
So, if you're watching this on Facebook, or obviously, if you're going to turn your TV on at 7 o'clock, if you're in Lowell, you're certainly not going to be watching us.
Nope.
So,
You got to watch us on YouTube. YouTube and Facebook.
Yep, YouTube and Facebook is good, and you can always call in and ask why we're not on, but we are on in Chelmsford, and we're on in
I don't
Drake and
think their
Tewksbury,
phones are
Tewksbury.
working either.
Lowell LTC? No,
don't
they
think-
wouldn't if the electronics are gone.
Yep.
But that's another thing that people need to be aware of is broken pipes, and how to be careful of those in terms of just allowing your water to just drip so that it's actually moving.
Well, they're in an industrial building. It wasn't even their pipe.
Right, and
It was a
well, if
feed
you have
pipe
a
going
home,
upstairs.
yep, and sometimes just leaving, like if you have a sink on your outside wall, or any kind of water on your outside wall, that you are aware of. Sometimes when you're in apartment buildings, you don't know. And usually in apartment buildings, everything's on the inside, if you have the right kind of architect that designed it, so that there's more warmer air so that those pipes do not break. And but you would leave the doors to underneath your sinks open. Air will flow underneath there. You don't have it really super cold. You can also insulate your pipes. There's a lot of stuff that you can buy in order to do that. So just filled with all this kind of little advice that we have in the morning. I'm trying to see what else there is before Glenn does get here. I know that there was a lot of articles out there about the arsenic in candy. You can certainly look that up. It does give you some very popular brands. I don't know if you saw any of that. I don't eat too much candy, but there are people that do, and a lot of children have candy, especially at Halloween and Christmas time. So you want to be cautious about that. What was interesting, I looked at some cocoa powder
Just
when I
backing
read the
up
label.
the bus for 1 second, Ev.
Pardon me?
Backing up the bus for 1 second here. Try to get rid of that X. Can't get rid of it. Except all cookies. Okay, Ace Hardware. What a pain in the ass they
What are you looking for?
I'm trying to show you this fan.
Oh, okay.
But Ace Hardware decides they don't want to let that window close. But see this fan right here?
I don't see anything yet.
Alrighty. There you go. See that fan?
Yeah, that's a box fan.
Whatever you want to call it. Breeze box, whatever.
Well, it looks like a box. It's really obvious.
Am I going to talk now, or are you going to tell me what I'm going to say?
John, let's not be snide this morning, so go ahead.
Okay. I leave one of these going in the cellar of any building that I'm incorporated with. And it's on a timer. It goes for a half an hour, then it's off for half an hour. On for half an hour, off for half an hour. And we don't have any frozen pipes. If you don't have a fan down in your cellar and you're having frozen pipes, consider having a fan down there, and all of your troubles might go away. So that's my little trick. Back over to you from Snidely Whiplash.
Well, we have the gas fireplaces. I always put a fan in front of the fireplace, even though there is a fan in the fireplace. It helps to distribute that air a little more. And I have fans in the ceiling so that a lot of the hot air that rises will be forced to the floor so that it is actually useful. So when we talk about fans are not just to keep you cool, they can keep you warm also depending upon where the source of air is coming from.
Well, if you angle it from the floor to the ceiling, it's much more efficient. It takes the cold air off the floor, sends it up to the ceiling where the warm air is. It circulates the air rather nicely.
Yeah, but I have like a series of different kinds of fans.
And the
it
ceiling
works.
fans, I have it in reverse mode in the winter. So it blows the air towards the ceiling, circulates it in the room nicely.
So, I was going to look up what the different candies were that have all the arsenic in it, but what I was going to say was, when I looked at, because I read all the labels, why not? when I go to buy something, and it was cocoa powder, and I'm reading the back.
Good morning, Mark Kratman. Is it chilly out there in Tewksbury? Mark says good morning.
Oh, hello. So it said on the back, only have 1 cup of hot chocolate from this brand a day because it has cadmium in it. Cadmium is carcinogenic if you have it in too large percentages. So what I got to do is look up more information with regard to that. So you want to read your labels, and you want to make sure that if you think something's good for you, you don't overdo it, that you do the recommended dose if you are taking supplements in your diet. But with the arsenic, it was a whole long list of things that are out there.
What we're looking at right here is from City Councilor Sean McDonough. And he put this on his Facebook page about the condition of the downtown sidewalks. And it's terrible. And they expect you to go and shovel your own sidewalk. It's not good. So much snow. I'm going to fan through these pictures, Ev. You can keep talking.
Well, that's fine. I was going to talk about the different kind of candy out there.
Oh, my God.
I
The
feel like
four-wheelchairians who live in downtown Lowell, you got to stay home. Jeez, girl.
I don't see any pictures on the screen, so what? I don't know what you're showing.
You know, that keeps on doing that. I don't know why. It's better now. But these are pictures of downtown Lowell.
You got to be careful. There's a lot of ice underfoot.
You ain't kidding. Icy everywhere.
So, apparently, the Department of Health in Florida did an analysis of candy to find out how many had heavy metals in them. And it showed they did 46 candy products from 10 companies that showed 28 of the candies contained arsenic levels unsafe over time. And the First Lady of Florida has been on TV discussing this. They were very surprised at this, and they wanted everybody to be careful what it was that they were eating. There's a whole list of them online.
Well, are they mostly made in China? I won't eat any candy that comes from China.
I don't know. I didn't look at that. It doesn't say.
I don't trust China.
Well, Hershey's doesn't come from China. So you've
well,
got...
the packaging is deceiving. It doesn't say where it's made.
It sounds like Glenn's here. So Hershey's cookies and cream.
Hey, Glenn.
Chocolate, Jolly Rancher hard candy, sour apple. So Jolly Rancher is one of them. We can look up where they're made. Twizzlers. You got Nestle's Kit Kat made the list.
No, the little round candies that you steal at the funeral parlors, I think they're made in China.
Well, we can look it up. There's Mars, Three Musketeers,
Well,
Snickers.
Mars is clearly made on Mars and shipped here. Do you
Yeah,
trust
and
the Martians?
Snickers, and then there's Skittles, and there's Sour Patch Kids. There's a lot of these that I'm familiar with. I don't eat them. Dots, remember that? We used to do the Dots. We used to go buy them at...
I never enjoyed Dots.
So you've got those. Let's see. What else have we got on this list? There's a long list of them. I mean, this is unbelievable. So it's a question of the integrity of our food supply, even though you really shouldn't be eating all this candy. Cause
Why not?
There's no nutritional value
They
in
don't
it.
serve it at the cemetery.
Well, you'll be at the cemetery sooner than later if you
Well,
eat
I'd
it.
rather eat my candy now because you're not going to get any up there.
Well, anyway, so there's a lot of stuff that's out there that's on that list. And so what we can do is...
I like my candy. I like my Sky Bars.
Oh, I don't eat that.
Well, what do you eat?
I usually have dark chocolate or bitter chocolate.
Does it have a brand name like Bitter?
No. You've got Lindt chocolate. You've got Ghirardelli chocolate. Hershey's makes
can
one.
just
Market
scramble over
Basket
there.
makes one.
Whenever you're ready, Glenn, thank you for your patience. Just watch all the
Yeah,
wires
we're
on the floor.
kind of waiting for you to show up. We were talking about exploding trees and...
Yeah, Ghirardelli chocolates are nice. Lindt chocolates are nice, good stuff.
Yeah, but I don't know if they
Well,
have
you gotta sit
anything.
next to the spouse.
Yes, he knows that. He's got coffee.
Okay, cool.
But I know people that like Jolly Rancher. There's all kinds of stuff. It's just a question of how much you're eating. but usually kids eat more than 2 pieces of candy, so we want to be very, very careful. Tootsie Rolls. So, people, they're doing all kinds of analysis out there with the food that we're eating and finding that there's a lot of toxic things in them. They also had done different things with lead, and that came with the chocolate. Like I said, what I read when I went to the supermarket was you only can have 1 cup of stuff because of cadmium. Anyway, now that we're back on camera, welcome, Glenn.
Made it. It is freaking cold outside now.
Yeah, did you use remote start today?
No, I didn't think of it. I get out, it was -6 degrees in the car.
Yep.
I didn't realize they had a minus sign next to the temperature, but they do.
Yes, mine was -3.
Yeah.
And also
cold.
all of the tires were low, so I had my little light come back on again, showing all the tires under 30.
Well, have to put some air in. That's why we have those portable air pumps, which are really great. Don't have to go to the gas station, don't have to do anything, just hook them up and pump. Well, that's my job. So,
Yes, cars are your job.
because it's -6 degrees.
And apparently, since I got older, snow blowing is your job too.
Yep.
So,
And there's a lot of snow to blow.
right now. Well, at least it seems as though we're not going to get that big storm. It's going to be more coastal,
We're
so
gonna
we
get the
might
s-
get a couple of inches of snow
We're going to
Sunday
get the
night.
storm, but we're not going to get as much snow.
Right.
They said the wind gusts are going to be over 60 miles an hour this weekend.
So, you might lose your barrel cover. A person sends in a text, who will be fired for the conditions of the downtown area? This falls on the manager's, great job, manager. You really care.
Well,
What are we looking at here?
Downtown Lowell,
Downtown Lowell,
The sidewalks don't look like they're plowed.
and some of
No.
them don't look like they're shoveled.
no.
Remember that we had at town meeting, we had
Some of them are okay, but it's bad.
we had the proposal to put in regulations that if you have a sidewalk in front of your house, you're responsible to shovel it, and you'd get fined if you didn't. And we had the discussion during town meeting, this is in Chelmsford, that wasn't fair because there's an awful lot of people who are older that can't necessarily get out there to do the shoveling.
Like
And if it's
us.
a public sidewalk, then it ought to be the public that pays for it, generally speaking, in our tax base. Yeah, but you snowplow like 6 feet around the house, so, and there's paths everywhere.
We
Not
have-
everybody does that.
Well, we have a walkout basement, so there's a patio outside that door. Then we have a patio on the first floor level right behind the garage. Those have to be plowed out, plus the driveway.
But we have plenty of access if we have to get out in a hurry.
Right.
And so basically what that is,
And the generator is positioned in case this windstorm knocks the power out. I was surprised we didn't have any power loss with this snow. They've done a pretty good job trimming back the trees everywhere. So was there any power lost in Lowell, John, that you know of?
Nope.
No, that's
Everybody.
good.
In fact, when I was watching one of the weathercasters, they said there was, in all of Massachusetts, only 815 people had lost.
Oh,
their
that's
power.
nothing. That's nothing. People hit telephone poles and knock the power out
That's
more
right,
often
yep.
than that.
Not bad.
Well, ready anyway, so it's a good idea to be prepared.
So if you haven't shoveled your sidewalk by now, shouldn't you wait until Tuesday in case we get more snow over the weekend? Do it once and forget about it?
Yeah, you could do that, but it's going to be very, very windy, so I think.
Maybe
if
it'll blow away?
No, I think it's going to be blowing in. Usually the wind takes the snow from the piles and puts it where there aren't piles, to level things out. So, the more wind you get, the more likelihood you're going to get drifting.
Well, you're right. There's a big park across the street called the South Common. And when it's windy, sends it snow over here.
Yeah, it comes from everywhere. It moves pretty freely. In fact, the snow was so light when I was snow blowing, and my snow blowers, the errands like a lot of people have, it blows that snow 40 feet up in the air. So it all blows over to my neighbor's yard.
Beautiful. Good boy.
And he blows it to his neighbor's yard, and it goes
The
down the street.
Chance 14 thing to do.
well,
love,
anyway.
love thy neighbor.
Well, it happens to be my sister, but that's okay.
Yes, your sister lives on one side of us, our son lives across the street. Everything is really interesting with regard to that. I'm looking for something specific.
Very safe neighborhood.
On here, on my phone, that I wanted to talk about. That's it there. I wonder if I sent this to you, John. I'm going to get myself into some serious discussion here.
I was up at Lancet Mills yesterday for some business meetings, and there's a parking area and a pathway beside it. They had more, it looked like rock salt, but it was bright green. So maybe they make it green so you can see where it landed, but they had if that was salt, the Merrimack's going to be pretty salty when the snow starts to melt, because it was like a half-inch thick all along the walkway. Good for walking. Yeah, the snow will melt for probably another 2 or 3 years, on that stuff. But I'd never seen so much salt put down.
So Marty Lori just sent me this video of, I can't play it now because I can't get the audio to work, but maybe you guys can see Elizabeth Warren. She's narrating this poor guy here who got shot over the weekend. But he's pretty good at kicking out taillights. See that?
Amazing. I mean, he really did a good job on that.
Well, it just shows
That's destruction of federal property.
embarrassing for Ford.
Well, this I saw the video. It kind of changes the narrative a bit, because everybody was saying he was just an innocent bystander.
A saint. Had a halo. He had a halo. He was a saint.
Right. And this particular incident that you're looking at, they claim that he was just trying to help a car full of immigrants who was stopped, and then he got out to help them. Then he was chased down by the Border Patrol officers or whoever they are there.
Wasn't he taking the immigrants to McDonald's for lunch?
No, he wasn't. The police were.
Oh, okay.
Well, the agents did, for whatever reason. But it kind of screws up the narrative that he innocently showed up and was watching what was going on and ended up getting killed as a result of it.
Well, when you were a kid, did your mother teach you when you see trouble, go the other way?
Yeah,
Yes.
pretty much.
And as gun owners should know.
Now he's spitting at them.
Yeah, that's how it started off. He was doing something prior to that. They didn't get on film. But, his intention was to intimidate the law officers there. And they didn't get that intimidated. They just go and they grabbed him. And, they weren't running after him. He kicked the car and broke the tail light. And so his intention was to intimidate the law officers, which shows the kind of person that he is. Now, should he have been shot? No. I don't think, you should ever put yourself in a situation where you're going to get shot.
Well, this person, somebody who does something like this in downtown Lowell, they have a mental problem.
He's a nurse.
In government, nobody gets fired. I mean, you've been working with government. How many people get fired in your lifetime?
I don't know of any.
Zero.
Well, anyway, we've seen it.
Okay.
And
Thanks, Marty.
I sent you something, but we're going to talk about that shortly. But
I'll go
not right.
find that.
Not right away. I sent a whole lot of stuff.
I remember.
Right. And as we've both stated, it doesn't justify you getting shot unless, you're actually pointing a gun or doing something that you shouldn't be doing. But when you have these peaceful protests, there was an article that I had that I think I sent you, but I've sent so many of them. I don't know that John would have those.
Well, the exploding tree.
Well, that was early this morning. We talked about the exploding tree and...
Glenn, have you ever seen an exploding tree?
I have not.
Your wife was talking about them this morning.
The only exploding tree I saw was when the lightning hit it, and I thought that it was like bombs dropping. And remember with that time we had the storm when we went up to Meredith and
we were
came
driving
down
around on top of
Winnipesaukee?
Winnipesaukee. I got to tell you, that was impressive. She was driving. I was in the passenger seat. Lightning bolt comes down about 15 feet off the side of the road, hit a tree, and it just blew apart. Bark and pieces of tree and limbs. It just, a giant explosion. But it was a lightning strike, and lightning's pretty powerful.
Sure is. I've seen a lightning bolt explode a tree.
Yeah, that's what it was. Undoubtedly, it heated up any moisture that was in the tree when it hit it, and that just blew up instantly because the amount of energy in a lightning bolt is quite breathtaking.
So there was, I do not see it coming up here. I know I sent it to you, but you don't need to actually access it. We can certainly discuss it. There was someone that was on Facebook, and it said, educate yourself on the facts about protesting. We'll throw out different things here, and it's highlighted. I mean, I don't want to spend an hour talking about it. You do not have
And
a
if you look on the screen there, which one of these is it? Do you think it is? Ron DeSantis?
No, you got to go further back in time.
Well,
That-
while you're looking for that, let me tell you what it said.
Very pokey internet this morning.
It's,
Right. Well, you have a constitutional right. You do not have a constitutional right to
No.
protest.
No, there's no constitutional right to protest.
Right. But you
You
do
know,
have
and
a
people get
constitutional.
that confused.
But you have a constitutional right to peaceably assemble. And
That's a play on words, isn't it?
yeah, well,
No,
it depends on
I'm not
how.
protesting, we're peacefully assembled.
peaceably assembled does not mean standing in the middle of the street obstructing traffic.
That's what you say.
Huh?
That's what you say.
Yes, absolutely.
Because 500 years ago, there was no street, he'd be standing in the forest.
Well, you sure there were.
Well,
Cow
anyway, so
path.
the second point
Don't
that
stand
this
in the cow
person made
path.
was legal protesting is a process. You fill out a request
Get a
with
permit.
your city or county or state. They'll provide you an area to protest. They're supposed to provide you with barriers to protect you and those who feel differently than you, and provide police
keep 'em
protection on a scheduled date. Most cities and towns have laws prohibiting the impeding of people's travel. That means
Right,
that it's against the
sidewalk,
law to
street.
protest in the middle of the street. It disrupts traffic. It's against the law to impede the sidewalk, stops the flow of people wishing to walk from one place to another. So if you're protesting in those areas and you do those particular things, then you're impeding the people that have the right to do something other than what you're doing from them doing it. And so when we have those particular freedoms, that doesn't mean that you can take away those people's freedoms just because you want to do something else. It doesn't include threatening or spitting on law enforcement, attacking law enforcement in any way, shape, or form. There's littering laws in many areas as well. You can express your free speech, but it doesn't give anybody the right to hire others to express your free speech. In simple terms, paid protesting is not part of the Constitution. Did you read all of this stuff before?
Of course I did.
Okay. What did I miss?
That's just about all of it. You know, to peacefully assemble means you can bring people together in an area to express your opinion with signs, and you can do some shouting as long as you're not disturbing people. But the minute you get into a situation where you're blocking traffic, or you're putting your car in the way of other people's cars, or preventing people from walking, that's not peacefully assembling. That's doing something else.
True, and you're not supposed to be setting fires.
So, as a public service announcement to those people in the state that probably have a legitimate permit to carry, common sense tells you that if you're going to go, interface with police in the actions of their duties to go arrest somebody, and you're carrying a firearm, you are just probably stupid. Nobody that I know that carries a firearm, and I know a few people that do, would bring a firearm to a protest, nor would they go in front of, police officers in the actions that are required by their duties. It just makes absolutely no common sense whatsoever. It almost borders to asking for trouble.
Jay gives us this comment, Elizabeth Warren didn't act like that when President Obama did the same thing. What a phony.
None of them acted like it.
No,
And they also were out. You have quotes. You know what?
There are
different ones-
speeches that Obama gave that I listened to yesterday, that President Clinton gave that I listened to yesterday, even Hillary Clinton. It was diametrically opposite to what's being said right now, and that's what makes me sad, because if they're just changing their position for political purposes, then they have no honor. They have no position. I don't think many of the Republicans have changed their position on immigration or immigration enforcement at all. But the Democrats have done a 180 because Trump's president. So If he's for enforcing the laws, they have to be against it. And the thing that, what's his name of the mayor of Minneapolis? Jacob Frey. You know, what Jacob Frey was saying is not their responsibility to enforce immigration law. True, it's not. But if you have people that are being detained that have crimes that they've already been convicted of, it would be appropriate to turn them over to ICE for deportation because that's the way the law is supposed to work. You don't see these problems in Florida or Texas or Mississippi or even in Michigan or Wisconsin because the police officers, return criminals to ICE if they are on a detainer or they inform ICE, we have this particular person, is he, on your list of people that are deportable because he's been arrested for a crime? No, in Minnesota, they just release him back into the public and say, we're trying to make it safer for our citizens in Minnesota. That's totally illogical. If you release criminals back into the population, that doesn't mean less crime. That means they have another opportunity to commit more crime. I just can't make sense out of that. Just like I can't make sense of anybody who would be dumb enough to carry a firearm, intentionally go confront and intimidate the police. What could go wrong?
Well, there's a whole lot of articles, because I want to know a comparison with past presidents and how many people did they deport and how many protests were there when they deported them. And there was a list that I had, but I don't have it in front of me currently. There's all these different things, but I mean, it's like size 2 font that I can't read.
Obama deported millions. Clinton deported millions, and they were in favor of doing it. In fact, Obama gave Holman, who's in charge at DHS, he gave him an award, a presidential medal for his success in deporting people during the Obama administration.
Well, I think there's other numbers that's out there too, because this is stuff that just it kind of comes across when you're reading or you're on Facebook or any number of things. And it isn't like we're trying to make one person worse than the other. Facts are facts. Trump has deported a little more than 1.5 million, and they call that successful deportations. And Obama was responsible for 3.1 million. You and I were talking also about how many deaths there were when you start making comparisons from one president to another of the people that they were deporting or people in the process of deporting. And the numbers are very, very high with past presidents in comparison to the current president. There's videos out there of Democrats, and including Obama and other presidents prior to him, basically saying the same thing that Trump has been saying right along, but because of the fact nobody particularly, I wouldn't say no one, but limited numbers of people really don't like what's going on with regard to Trump. All of a sudden he's the super bad guy, where you really have worse things that happened in prior administrations. Do you have any information on that?
I got two remarks from, one's from you, one's from the audience. First one, when you have a funded protest from Soros, most of the time they aren't peaceful. Understood? And have you sent this to me?
Yeah, I was last night, among other nights, when you listen to the news, you have all of these different individuals. I'll use that term loosely because to try to say that they're senators
This guy's
and
dead
congressmen.
75 years, they're still quoting him.
Pardon me?
Hitler.
Well, there's a reason I put this up.
Okay, well, tell us.
This came off Facebook. If somebody out there says that it's incorrect, please correct me.
It's
I'm
kind of
open
small.
for that.
Can you
Yeah,
make it any bigger,
He's
John?
going to do that. But
Okay.
people are calling ICE Nazis. And they're calling Trump a Nazi and the fascism and everything. And I wanted to get a better picture of why would they do that. This happened to come up where, if you take a look at it, and again, I didn't make this up, Hitler praised abortion, liberals agree. Hitler controlled industry, liberals agree. There's a lot of other people that agree with some of this stuff too. But this was the focus of this
Stick with the
particular
script.
one. And you have nationalized health care, indoctrinated children, silenced churches. I can't read all of it because I haven't got the right glasses. Enforced gun control, banned opposing political parties. He only wanted one, and you can see that we really only have one in Massachusetts, and they're trying to do the same thing in other states. As Democrats get elected, they are trying to do the gerrymandering thing so that you have less opposition. And expanded government power. We see a president currently that's trying to reduce that. And they persecuted Jews, but they also persecuted other groups of individuals. So I also sent you a link to the Britannica, the encyclopedia.
I can't find it, Ev, so please proceed.
That was this morning, no, that was yesterday on your messages. And when you look
Well,
up...
I showed you the messages earlier, and it only shows 2.
Oh, well, then you deleted the other ones, and that's okay.
I didn't delete anything, Ev. It's just the internet's wicked slow today.
Okay, well, that's fine. So when we get onto, and I think I did this last night, I looked up, I asked, to define Nazism. This is the curiosity factor that I have. And this is the Britannica, and it does go through the whole thing. I would challenge anyone out there to do that. I'm not going to take the time to read this because it's extensive. And what the roots were of it, which we don't have here, and how they systematically not only tried to get rid of people that were a specific religion, which this is not what our country is doing. It also got rid of Jehovah's Witnesses. They got rid of anybody that,
Special needs.
yes, anybody.
Handicap.
Anybody
You were
that had a,
wheelchair, you were gone.
Yeah, if you had a mental issue, you were dead.
Marty Laurie said this just a second ago. That film he sent us was shot several days before the incident when he was shot. That's his understanding.
Yes, and but I'm trying to go through here because it was a whole list. If you were a homosexual or any number of
any
things.
deviant behavior was eliminated.
That's correct.
Well, they do that in the Middle East now. If you're homosexual, they throw you off the
Oh yeah, sure.
Oh yeah, they throw you off buildings.
You don't see a lot of protest on that issue in the Middle East.
Because rich people get away with whatever. If you have money, you can do whatever you want.
They buy privacy. One of the things that is very troubling is we wouldn't have any of these instances with deportations if the border hadn't been wide open for so many years. I mean, everybody remembers the caravans. Everybody remembers the thousands and thousands of people that were crossing in Texas and stuff. And the police were instructed not to stop them. Let them all in. Why? 2 things come into play, because the more physical bodies you have in a particular state, the more representatives you get, which is why President Trump does not want to count illegal immigrants in the census. They can't vote, obviously, but the plan by the Democrats was to make more Democrat voters. So their argument was open the borders, let anybody come in, millions upon millions, some numbers go as high as 20 million, and then we'll provide everything they need, the food, education, housing, medical care, and so forth. And then we want a quick path to citizenship, which means voting. So whenever you hear path to citizenship, you have to think that means voting. And when you hear that, you know why the border was kept wide open. If you get enough dependent people, and you're the people that are providing them everything they need, they're going to vote for you. That was the plan. None of this would be going on if the borders weren't thrown wide open and these illegal immigrants were distributed across the country. They were flying them into different parts of the country, dropping them off. They had an app on the internet that you could go in and you could get permission to come into the country for more Democrat voters, and they admitted it. They said this was their plan. So we need a quick pathway to citizenship. We need to make them voters. We should have the borders wide open. And one of the reasons why you see crime going down even more right now is even with the 2 million people that's self-deported, there are less criminals on the street. And there'll be even more criminals removed from the country as this deportation process continues. but for 20 million people, that's a heavy lift.
So
And on that
we're up
note,
to
we're
the
gonna
7
go to
o'clock
break.
mark. Please don't go away. We'll be back shortly. Thank you.
And there'll be even more criminals removed from the country as this deportation process continues. But for 20 million people, that's a heavy lift.
So we're up to the 7 o'clock mark. Please don't go away. We'll be back shortly. Thank you. Welcome back. I'm Evelyn Thoren. I am your host for the next approximate hour. We do sign off a little bit earlier because some of the local TV areas, they need a little bit of time to transition into the next programming areas. I have as a guest this morning Glenn Thoren.
Morning. It's cold outside.
And we've talked about an awful lot of the stuff that we talk about this morning, so it's kind of interesting going back and forth. In the first hour, we did talk about the weather. We want people to make sure that they're staying warm. You had some good advice, you said, about people with cold.
With what?
People with the cold weather out there.
Oh, make sure your long underwear's ready.
Yeah.
Because
That kinda
I got
dates
out,
us,
I
don't
went
you
in the
think?
car this morning. It was -6 degrees. I didn't realize they had a minus sign on the display, but it was -6 degrees, and it was cold. And you can tell, everybody in Massachusetts and New England knows, when the snow squeaks, when you walk on it, it's cold.
Crunches. Like
No, it
leaves.
squeaks, making weird squeaking noises.
Well, anyway.
Listen
so-
for the squeaking.
Yes.
Like the exploding tree.
Well, we also talked about exploding trees because, and John doubts that, but he can certainly look up all the historical background with regard to that from centuries and centuries. And so the reason that they do explode is because there's a sudden drop in temperature and the tree doesn't have time to acclimate itself to it. You also have explosions that may be like underground. They're not earthquakes. You have the same situation. And those quakes from the cold weather are usually down south because
So an
we're used to
exploding
it.
tree means that it's got excessive moisture. And when the temperature drops, it freezes to ice, and ice takes up more space than water,
Yes,
and the tree explodes.
yes. So the
I
sap
like
in
the
tree-
lightning version better.
Yeah, we were talking about when the lightning hits trees, it explodes also, but that's a little bit different.
It's
like you being hit with a
amazing to
bomb.
watch.
Yeah, we've had experience with that, fortunate or unfortunate, but it definitely was an experience to say the least, especially if you're driving, you see
You were
this,
driving, I was riding, and
you see this
a
ball of
lightning
fire
bolt,
coming
yeah,
down from the
hit this
air.
tree 15 feet off the road.
Yeah, exploded.
And it literally blew into pieces. The
Yeah.
lightning bolt hit the tree right in the middle. It wasn't a huge tree, probably 6 inches in diameter, but everything just went in all directions, and it was really bright. It was very impressive.
Well, so far it's hit 3 trees on the property that we own up in New Hampshire.
Big trees.
Yeah, very big trees,
Giant
very tall
pine
trees. And one of them, it just blew out the whole top, and the top came down. And we were very thankful that nobody was there, and no animals were harmed in the process. We don't know about any of the other trees, but, I mean, that's the
There's
way
a
that
lot of
goes.
wood-
So
a lot of wood
we
to
talked
chop
about
up.
different things like that with regard to the weather and the fact that they're taking a look at the storm we may be getting this weekend. Will be high in wind, but it may not be high in snowfall. So it's still winter. People still need to prepare to make sure that they have what they think they need. And there's a list of stuff everywhere, but you already know what you should have. One of the things I always thought was interesting in making preparations is that if you did, in the days when we didn't have generators and we would lose electricity, you make sure that if you like coffee, you have the ability to make it on, if you have a gas stove, that you have the ability to make it on a gas stove. There's interesting things with regard to that. Make sure you have matches, because if you have an electric start in your stove, it isn't starting. And so there was all of that. And then if you have can openers, make sure you have a manual can opener, one that you crank versus one that is plugged into the wall. And so you want to evaluate all of the different things that you use that you depend
Well, if you're the
on electricity.
super shopper, how many come with the pop-top lids now, instead of can openers?
Not enough.
Many do,
Many do,
Yeah.
but not enough.
I think that's pretty cool, a pop-top.
and not everybody has gas cooking.
No.
You know, those with electric cooking are be kind of out of luck.
So if you own a home and you don't live in like in a condo and they have all these HOA rules and regulations, you might also have a grill. And if you have a grill, you make sure that you have your propane tank and you can easily cook on your grill. There's a lot of
And
things you can do on
don't
your
cook
grill.
inside.
Yes, and you don't do that inside. And some people still do the charcoal route, and you have to be very cautious about
But the
fire.
big problem when the power goes out is your home's going to freeze. You know, that's one of the difficulties is you don't want your pipes freezing, and you know there's a couple of ways of preventing that is keep the water running so the water's running through the pipes because the water coming out of the ground is above freezing, fortunately. But when you're stuck in a house with no heat, it's a problem. You know, we have a wood stove in the basement, which helps, but the rest of the house is still going to get very, very cold.
Right, but we do have that gas-powered fireplace that's on the second floor. And that has definitely helped
Right.
keep the temperature above freezing in the garage below, generally speaking, at least at the ceiling level. And so we've been very fortunate not to have any problems. Now, what John did report earlier, that the rumor was that Lowell Telemedia is not on because they flooded over the weekend, and because there was no school or
Flooding.
anything on Monday, and they didn't go into the offices when they finally did, everything was underwater. I find it hard to believe it was underwater, but this is what they're saying.
I've never visited there, so I really don't know.
No, and I don't know either. I haven't, but John has. And so he would be aware of that. But they don't own, as far as I know, they don't own the building, and so they wouldn't be doing anything that would try to keep them from having frozen pipes and exploding pipes.
But this
and
gets to
everything.
Chelmsford Telemedia, which I'm pretty sure is not flooded.
No, I don't think it would be flooded because it's a Parker school.
Yep.
And we have all kinds of things going on there. So we did, in terms of Chelmsford, we haven't had a permanent building committee meeting yet this year. We will be having one probably next month. That reminded me, we're putting in two fire stations, Engine 3 and 5. 5 is in South Chelmsford on Route 27. Very complicated because it's a very small plot of land. Everything is online. If anybody is interested, it's on the town
Good
website.
location, but a small plot of land.
Right. And the other one is in West Chelmsford, but it's not as west as it could be. But it's off of Westford, Old Westford Road, which, Chelmsford Street, not Chelmsford Street, that goes
Near
the other
Roberts
direction.
Field,
Yes.
the playground. Yeah.
Yep, and so that's also somewhat complicated because you have wetlands next to it. But the town did approve to improve those two fire stations. Because we're laid out the way we are in the town, we have several fire stations because we want a short response time for any emergency that the people in Chelmsford have. But the next thing
Several meaning you have 3 or 4?
Oh, we had 5.
5.
So we have one, we have the center, we have the one in North Chelmsford, we have South Chelmsford, we have East Chelmsford, and we have West. So we have 5
So
fire
south
stations.
and west are being replaced.
Yes. The one in East.
North was replaced. They did a great job on that.
Yeah, we had some complications with the exterior, and then people liking what we did or didn't do. But hopefully that we will have a little bit more consideration with regard to what's
It
going on.
wasn't our
built up.
design, it was a subcontractor, didn't put the materials up properly, so.
Right, during COVID, and everybody was not happy with what happened.
No, we got that squared away, we just hit them with a big stick.
I don't know about that, but there was a lot of back and forth and a lot of lawyers involved, so that has been taken care of. But the next thing that's up on the list is to replace Parker School. And the reason we're doing a middle school versus a high school is because no matter what we tried to do in the past with trying to get the Mass Building Association to be able to help us giving us a certain percentage of money towards the building. They weren't doing that because we compete with all the other communities wanting the same buildings in the state of Massachusetts, the Commonwealth. So when they did make an application for the one of Parker, they said, oh, this is different, especially since there's water that flows under it, the school that is. And so they did approve that initially, and so now you have a building committee, they've been out in the public. So if it's news to you this morning, it's been around for a couple of years that they've been talking about this, and a lot of information is on the town website. It's also on the school website as far as what they're proposing.
Building schools is tremendously expensive. In Massachusetts, the cost for labor and everything is sky high. It's what they call prevailing wage. So if you look at some other states, especially states in the South, or maybe even New Hampshire in a lot of cases, it's much less expensive to build the same structure in another state. So if we don't get state funding to help for the cost of some of these structures, they're unaffordable and will never be done, and the existing facilities will just decay into oblivion. So the state does help you, but if you're considered a rich community, you get communities like Arlington, Lexington, they're considered very rich communities, they get less support from the state. Chelmsford is somewhere in the middle. We're not a rich community, but we're not poor either. So we get less help from the state than Lowell would. Now in Lowell, they might get 95% of what they're trying to do paid for by state, which means the rest of the taxpayers in the state. In Chelmsford, we're, lucky to get 50%. So it's a big difference in what we can do with the money that we have.
And when they're calculating those percentages, it's not on the bottom line. There are things that might be excluded from the state reimbursing
right.
a percentage. So they do have a list. So one of the things that I was very surprised at, because we have never done it in Chelmsford, they state if you put a new building on another piece of property other than the property where the building is, then the state will not reimburse you to tear down the old building. So I'm not sure how much that may have influenced some people with Lowell High School, but we're talking about Chelmsford. So with Parker Middle School, if they build another Parker school on the property that is the campus for Parker, then the state more likely will reimburse that 55% of tearing down Parker. And when you build the new Parker, you have to tear down the old one. So they're currently thinking about putting the new Parker where the Pop Warner fields are, and then redoing where Parker is to be the new fields for Pop Warner and other things. So they're trying to take that into consideration, and when they do that, that is also a consideration in order to keep the cost as minimal as possible with regard to that. So everything has to
Do either
meet
of
the
you know
criteria.
why we can't just have a contractor build the school for us and then we buy it from him or her?
Well, first of all,
Probably not allowed by the state because they've got to keep their
Why?
unions employed.
well, you're talking about putting a building on public property, and public property is not private property, and you
No,
would
you
go
sell,
under bid laws.
no, Evelyn, what you do is you sell the property to the developer. The developer creates a perfect school building for you, and then he sells it all back to the town.
Well, that's a very interesting concept, except that in order to do that in Chelmsford, it has to go through town meeting, and you would have to have.
How much do you think it would save, Glenn?
The number of guarantees you'd have to have in an agreement like that would be breathtaking, and if the builder had a financial problem and couldn't do it, then what do you do? It's not your property anymore. So there's so many things that you'd have to put into an agreement like that. I can
So
see.
you don't think it's feasible?
Hmm?
You don't think it's feasible?
No, it's the
Understood.
complexity of it.
Turn the page.
I mean, John, the state won't even let, the state auditor audit the state, and that's very feasible. So there's things going on that are kind of beyond explanation. Why won't, the voters pass this audit law by 72% of the vote to look into the books of where the money is going in the state, but the state Democrats, the governor, lieutenant governor, et cetera, they will not agree to be audited. Why? I mean, it's not a hard guess why, because there are probably things in
They're
there that would
corrupt.
mimic Minnesota.
They're corrupt.
Well, at least she's pursuing it, and she hasn't stopped pursuing it. And there are other articles with regard to what the state auditor is doing with different levels of the Massachusetts legislature that she is doing audits.
The more information that people get, the better informed they are about decisions they have to make in interacting with the state government.
Chris 1-561-235-6005.
Is it an emergency call? No, you're okay.
No,
So,
that's
so
more-
one of the things that came up just today is you recall that Governor Healy is going to, force the energy companies, because our electric and gas bills were a lot higher than I thought they would be, because we were very conservative on both gas and electricity. She's going to she's going to provide approximately a 10% reduction with 180 million of state funds for February and March. So, your bills should look a little bit lower. And then on top of that, she insisted that the electric companies and the gas companies reduce it another 15%. But it's not like they're actually reducing it 15%. They're just delaying your payments so that you think you got a break until the summer months when generally those bills are lower. And then you have to pay back with a surcharge the gas and electric companies. But what people found out very quickly is the money that they delayed, the gas and electric companies were going to collect interest from you on the money that they, quote, loaned you by not billing you in February and March. And when people found out about it, they said, wait a minute, you're forcing us to take a loan from the gas and electric companies. They're charging us interest on the money that you're forcing them to loan us by lowering the bills, and they collect that. Well, today, the governor announced that the gas and electric companies, out of the kindness of their hearts, will not charge additional fees for that delayed payment schedule. You don't get out of paying it, they're just moving it to summer months, so it doesn't look quite as bad to you. I mean, this is the shell game. If energy would cost less, like get more gas into New England, like the pipelines that the Governor Healy blocked when she was Attorney General, then the price of gas would go down, because what we have to buy is liquid natural gas from Tobago and other places, which is a lot more expensive than gas that comes into New England via pipelines. So again, it's the shell game. Make it look like they're doing something when they're not. And by taking 180 million out of the state budget to lower the gas and electric prices, well, whose money is that? I mean, where'd that 180 million come from? That's taxpayer dollars. That's not magic money that the governor printed up and decided to help reduce the price. It's just taking your tax dollars and putting it against your bills so you don't find out they're so egregious. And hopefully that'll get her extra points in a reelection campaign. I mean, you got to think through these things as they go on, like, why do we have all these immigration problems? Because we had open borders and caravans and, 20 million people coming into the country that shouldn't be here. If that didn't happen, we wouldn't have any of the issues that we're talking about today.
Well, if we want to stay on what's going on with regard to the state, there was an article, John, that I did send you, like recently, like yesterday, that the governor has a $6.3 billion budget that she's going to propose for the next fiscal year. So they're working
Say
on
that
the
again?
budget.
That doesn't sound right at all.
A $63
That sounds
billion budget.
If we
Sorry
ran
about
this state on 6.3 billion, I'd be very happy, but it isn't
Yeah, wouldn't
happening.
everybody? So she's increasing the budget by 3.8%. Now, in the article, it does tell you that revenue is increasing, and of course,
You send
if-
this on Messenger or regular?
regular text.
I'll look elsewhere.
So the budget, of course, if we have money, we have to spend it. And so as you go through the budget, it tells you a little bit more of where the increases are, of course. But one of the things that she's going to eliminate deals with mass health. And so they're going to eliminate weight loss drugs to support those through mass health. Now, mass health covers a wide range of things. And usually people have mass health if they are lower income, because they can't afford to pay for the other one. So we want to take that into consideration when you hear what she's doing, and it could be buried in there. And they're also blaming the current administration in Washington as to why they're going to be doing this, because there's so much money not coming into the state and all the different things. But regardless of that, they also want to have caps on some of the medical expenses through Mass Health. Mass Health also funds the nursing home care or long-term care of senior citizens. So if you end up in long-term care and you run out of money, you have to make an application to Mass Health. And usually you use an agency to do that. We won't talk about all of that this morning because we do have our favorite lawyer friend coming in, I think, next week. Sandra's going to be here, and so we can talk about making applications to Mass Health if you have run out of money and one of your family members is in a long-term care, or what do you do about that? So we'll pick that up later.
One of the big issues that's been complained about is I don't think the federal government is going to provide funds for the, I guess they call it the SNAP program, or, EBT funds for junk food, for soda and candy and things like that. EBT funds, SNAP funds will no longer be able to be used for food that is not nutritious. So one thing you have to give credit to Bobby Kennedy for is his focus on what are the right foods that people should be eating for a healthy lifestyle. And a lot of the people that are in lower incomes, it's been shown, tend to buy foods that are not the healthiest foods for them, but more enjoyable to eat, and that includes, junk foods. So the federal government is not going to be providing funding for junk foods anymore. You can't use the funds for that. I mean, funds are fungible, so you use other money if you're going to buy junk foods. But the intent is to try and flip the food pyramid to get the good foods at the top of your list and put the junk foods at the bottom of the list of anything that you might buy. It was amazing to me that Fruit Loops was at the top of the list in the Obama food plans, and they also eliminated meat from high school diets, from food plans in high school. So healthy foods are going back into the foods that the schools are going to be able to provide for students instead of junk foods, whole milk, things like that.
So in Massachusetts, when you had the surcharge on people who make more than $1 million, remember that, the 4%? And when they put that into place, they didn't leave it open-ended. It was supposed to be for public school education and roads and things along those lines.
We've heard this before.
Yes. Well, there's ways in which you can reinterpret public education. However, that's not, I don't want to go down the critique route there. But in the money that was given to public schools, you now have the state supporting breakfast and lunches at public schools, so the kids don't pay, including Chelmsford. So there's no excuses why kids shouldn't pay. There's a lot of articles out there, they're not currently from Massachusetts, where some children, if they run up bills, they're not feeding them because they owe money through the lunch program. That is not Massachusetts currently. And so they want to make sure that whatever is going out there is more of a balanced diet. In other words, you just aren't looking at a plate that looks all yellow, or, it's a one-color plate of food. And there's a lot of information I have in my head, which I'm not going to share this morning, and John will be very happy about that with regard to the food. But we're trying to get it so that you actually have people buying food that is more healthy. When they shut the government down, I wished I had kept that article.
Evelyn, if it's tasty, we're going to eat it. Whether
I know,
it's healthy
even if it's
or
not good for you, but there's
I don't care if it's good for me, it's tasty.
yeah, but if it's going to kill you,
So you can
let's
have,
not go there.
John, you can have good food that's tasty.
I make it all the time.
I love my Sky Bar. They're probably going to
Yeah.
kill me, but I love my Sky Bar.
But, if the food is going to children, whether they can afford their own breakfast or not, if the food is going to go to children and it's nutritious and they get breakfast and lunch, no problem with that. You can buy in bulk and it'll be less expensive than, buying it individually at the store. But having something good to eat is always the right thing to do. And so, I have no problems with spending the money to feed children nutritious food. Junk food.
Okay, oatmeal or Frosted Flakes?
Well, you remember the time during the Obama administration when the athletes in
That
schools.
was a question, has nothing to do with Obama.
With
Oatmeal or Frosted Flakes?
Oh,
Yeah.
you can make oatmeal taste really good. I do.
A
I'll
little
take Frosted Flakes.
cream or maple
Well, that's
syrup
because it
or
takes a
whatever.
little bit more energy.
But when
Comment from the
That's it.
audience, we have no one to blame but ourselves. We all know our state government is causing most of our problems, but we still stay and take it. Why?
Because it's easier. It's the least path of
The younger
resistance.
generation is moving. I don't know.
Well, I didn't send you articles on all of the reasons why people are leaving the
Please,
state.
don't, just one.
Well, yeah, but sometimes there's
Because I try to
opposing.
scroll back and there's too many.
Sometimes there's opposing views. And sometimes what happens is I may send you 10 articles. We go through all those 10 articles within the first hour because it's only like comments on it, and I want to make sure I have input. I know that when Cliff has his agenda.
We gotta find a place where you can have you know how they say play cut 5? Number them.
You want me to number when I send you articles? Okay, I can do
We
that.
can do
I don't know
that.
how to do that, but
I
it would
can
make it a
figure
lot
it out.
easier to locate them.
I can do that.
It's not a problem. Usually it's by date. But anyway, as far as
Doesn't show date.
the food goes, there was an article that I read out there, or maybe it was on one of the local news broadcasts, that when they shut the government down the last time, and of course you didn't have all of the benefits going out there, you didn't have all of the support for the money because the Democrats didn't agree with the Republicans on where they wanted to go and vice versa. And they noticed that the spending habits of the people that receive those benefits be focused less on the junk food and more on the nutritious food. And when the EBT, I don't know how they figure this all out. When they started using the EBT cards again, where they were actually funded, then they went back to buying the soda and the chips. How they knew how all of this is beyond me. But we lived in upstate New York a long time ago. What, 46 years
Seems like
ago?
yesterday, but
Yeah, 45 years ago. They had taxes on things that they had deemed non-nutritional, or in other words, your junk food. So there was a tax on sodas. There was a tax on juice that didn't contain 100% juice. Tax on candy, chips, some crackers. You didn't do much food shopping then.
they're
so I
collecting
knew that.
taxes so they can pay for your medical care because you're eating the wrong stuff.
Well, I don't know
know?
if that's exactly what New York State was doing, but at the time when they were
They just
talking
wanted
about
the money.
Massachusetts, it really you got
It's
a new
all
view.
about the money.
You got a new view on that. And granted, you like your Sky Bar, John. I like my potato chips. And but
What kind of potato chips do you like?
well, what were the ones that you just bought?
Rap City.
Rap City. They're almost like they're handmade. When my middle son was growing up, one of the things he liked to do was cook. So my sister asked one year what to buy him, and so she bought him a Fry Daddy, and he made potato chips one at a time. So he would slice the potatoes, he'd put them in the oil. When they were done cooking, he'd take them out, lay them out, pat them dry of the oil, and then sprinkle the salt on top of them. Those were really, really good potato chips.
At about
Now
$1 a chip. So.
but he liked it.
Spicy little chips.
Yeah, but he liked doing it. He still cooks. I mean, all three of the boys do, and they do all kinds. Some of them do some very innovative things with regard to food, high nutritional value food that they do, and they do some canning and other types of preserving. In fact, the middle one was making his own kimchi. That's something new that Glenn liked. It is fermented
I
cabbage.
try new
A little
stuff all the
spicy
time.
because of what's in it. And that's fine. Look it up online. It's
Food,
supposed
that
to be.
is, not people, food,
They talk about how fermented food is good for your gut. We should have a whole people in here that know a lot more about nutrition and what you
Yeah,
eat,
do you ever
don't
have
eat.
nutritionists in?
No, because usually we don't deal with nutritionists. Maybe we get the
Yeah.
Board of Health in. That might be
Well,
something
you
of
need a
interest.
nutritionist because, Bobby, one of the most popular people in the current administration is Bobby Kennedy because they know he's trying to do the right things, taking carcinogenics and toxicity out of candy, for example. You spoke about that a little bit earlier. But, in a lot of the candy, you've got cadmium, you've got lead, you've got arsenic. And this is in candy that people eat every day, and most of the candies that you find at the movie theater. And so whoever looked at that? Nobody ever looked at, well, what are we eating? What are these dyes, the red dyes, the blue dyes, the yellow dyes? They're in everything to make them look pretty so that you put them in your mouth. What are we eating? But Bobby Kennedy's been looking at this for a long time, which is one of the reasons why Kennedy got interested in the Trump administration, because he's been talking to people about it for decades and nobody wants to listen. President Trump listened and said, you've got some very interesting, innovative ideas about how to handle our food supplies and how to determine what Americans are eating that might not be good for them. And it's not that you can, we want to stop people from eating this stuff, but they should know what they're eating. Now, a lot of the companies that make red dyes and yellow dyes and put them in cereals and everything else have decided not to do that because they looked at Europe where these dyes are banned. You don't get the same food even in Canada, you don't get the same food in the same box in Canada or Europe that you get in the United States because the regulations didn't, stop people from putting in some toxic chemicals and things that are bad for you that cause cancer in your food. They just didn't tell you about it. But now that Bobby Kennedy wants you to know what you're eating, things are changing, including by the manufacturers.
Well, what I'd like to talk about is a today issue of the addiction of telephones to everyone in America.
Oh, absolutely. I'm.
Nobody wants to talk about it. Now there's some lawsuits out there
Yep.
that are getting some airtime, but everybody's addicted to their cell phone. And does Congress do anything about it? No.
No, it's under study, and if we wait,
Under study.
yeah, if you wait for the speed of
Everything's under
government,
study.
we could be that. When they want.
Oh, we'll have a
when-
committee.
Right, and when they want to debate foreign policy and what we do or we don't do, if Congress debated whether it foreign policy,
Foreign policy.
no, well, I don't know if they're going to do that
Well,
either.
that's probably on the list.
But if we had waited for them, for Congress to decide whether or not we should go to war, we would have been invaded. They don't know what they're doing half the
The
time.
FCC regulations, though, they could stop this in a heartbeat.
Well, they have-
They could
China-
in some
But they're not
cases.
going to.
But China, in TikTok is an excellent example. In China, they use TikTok as an educational
That's right.
means of disseminating information. But what they do in the United States, it's all social, because they've got to break down the government, they've got to break down the people that are here, because they got to take us over. And as I've stated before, and I don't want to go off on too many tangents, because I throw a lot of stuff out there sometimes, is that when they want to protect Greenland, if anybody out there ever played the game of Risk, you would understand why you would want to protect Greenland. And you would want to make sure that Canada understood that they could easily be invaded
So
too.
during the Second World War, Greenland came to the United States and begged the United States to protect them. They knew Denmark couldn't do it. Denmark at that time, I think, was even occupied by the Nazis. So they came to the United States and say, hey, we could be invaded at any time. So what do? We put troops in Greenland, a lot of troops. And Iceland, same thing. Iceland came to us and said, we're at risk here because we're in the North Atlantic and they've got these U-boats and they've got the German Navy out there. We put Marines and Marine airplanes in Iceland, a lot of them, at their request. In fact, Greenland was essentially an American protectorate until after the war, and then we gave it back to Denmark, which may or may not have been a great idea, but that's neither here nor there. We do need it for national security because missiles come over the top of Greenland and over the top of Canada if they're fired from either China or Russia.
Well, anyway, I only just wanted to say, if you ever played some of the board games, you would understand perfectly, because it would be the strategy of you to win the game that you would understand what they could do, potentially.
Yes.
So I just thought I'd throw that one out there. So, John, if perchance you can get the town of Chelmsford site up of the nomination papers available for offices. Chelmsford has their local election the first Tuesday in April, and those papers are due, and all of the details are there. We talked last week about putting it up. so that we would be able to at least put it out there for anybody
No.
in
Aren't
Chelmsford.
the signed papers due next week sometime?
They're due in February, yes.
That's next week, right?
Well, they're not due next week, but there is a deadline of which you can pull papers,
February
and then
something.
the signatures are due the following week. So John will get that all up as far as what goes on with the town of Chelmsford. Also, the Arts and Technology Education Fund in Chelmsford, their applications are available to the staff of the Chelmsford Public Schools, and that was established in 1996. And so you want to take a look online, the ATEF, Arts and Technology Education Fund, it's on the town website and it's also on the school website. So if anybody knows anybody that is looking for some additional funds,
So there's your town website.
yeah, go to departments. No, scroll down first and see, I don't know, I can't see that. Scroll a little more. All right, news and events.
Run for office, right?
There you are, lower left. Yeah, see, yes.
Yeah, that one. That should bring it up. I think.
It should go directly to it. Okay, there's your deadlines. And the last day to obtain nomination papers is Thursday, February 12th by 5, because on Friday they close at 1. The last day for nominations to be filed is the 17th. So if you pull at the last minute on February 12th, you have 5 days to get your 50 signatures. The suggestion.
For a non-paying job?
Everything's
they're all
non-paying.
So if you scroll down, you want to get additional signatures anyway. Keep scrolling. Okay, last day to register for vote in Chelmsford is April 7th. To vote for it is March 27th, excuse me. Last day to register to vote for the April 7th annual town election is Friday, March 27th. So they do not have same-day registration.
Thank goodness.
And then, if you scroll down a little further, townwide offices. That tells you what is available, and as you keep scrolling slowly, you will see that we have 11 precincts. Keep going. Thank you. And the available spaces for town meeting are there. You can see on the right side, some people have left for any number of reasons, and so if you wanted to,
It's a non-paying job.
you just wanted to
How
try,
much do you want for free?
you just wanted to try town meeting, you can run for 1 year.
Well, it's good to spend a lot of time doing the research for every issue that you find on the ballot, but a lot of people can't find the time to do that.
So John, Curlin's gonna run for selectman?
Yes.
For the 1 year term. And we also have another seat available.
Didn't you have a couple of selectmen walk this year?
No, you had, last year, you had a member
I'm
of
sorry,
the
it's
selectmen.
it's only January, I'm sorry.
Uh,
Over this election period, Evelyn, didn't you have a couple of selectmen walk?
No, you had one.
Only
And
one?
then
I
you
thought a guy
had,
and a gal did walk.
you said during the election period, so this is the person that would be up in April. And so her seat would be 3 years. Then you did have, I thought it was in January, wasn't it the beginning of this month? You had a member of the Board of Selectmen decide that they weren't going to.
Yeah, well, he'll be a member until the election.
Yes, so
Pat
he's
Maloney,
not
yeah.
resigning until the election. So he didn't resign ahead of time, so it's a little
You
bit.
got all these people who serve for free?
Everybody. It's community service. You know, in order to have a well-run town, you need people that are interested in the issues and willing to spend some time looking into what's going on, debating it, talking about what's going on. And that's what it's been
So
like
it's just
since
an ego trip for them?
1980.
I would
I
say
don't think
it's
so.
not an ego trip for
Oh,
me.
I would
The
say
amo-
it's an ego trip.
The amount of work that's involved is if you
I'm
do
from
it, it's
precinct
huge.
11, and I'm a town meeting rep from precinct 11. Better get you a cup of coffee someplace.
So we became town meeting reps in 1989, which was a few years ago, because we believed that community service was important in our town.
So anyway, so if anybody is interested in Chelmsford, and even if you're outside of Chelmsford, you may know people in Chelmsford.
Do you have
But
to
it-
live in Chelmsford to be a volunteer there?
No,
So I could be a town meeting rep and not
No,
live
no,
there?
no, no, you have to be
You
in
asked a
town to get
specific
elected.
question.
What is the
You can volunteer
proof?
for anything.
What's the proof I have to offer?
You, what?
You have to have you can see there, you register your address.
So I just say I live at, we'll pick somebody's address here.
Right, they do,
I live at 18 Clarissa Road.
they check.
Oh, they
Oh,
know.
how do they check?
Because you got-
Census,
Yep,
census.
I don't think they check.
they do check. Now, the other
Oh, yeah.
thing is
Our town hall
you
does.
asked a specific question,
I did.
okay? But it was very specific. You have to, can you volunteer? You can volunteer to be on
No,
other-
I mean, these are all volunteer jobs.
Yes, they are.
I'm not gonna
But there are
volunteer
other
at
They're,
the
volunteer
fire
they're
house.
elected
Right,
positions.
so if you are in an elected position, you have to be a resident.
It's
I thought it
amazing
was
you get all these
interesting.
freebies.
I thought it was interesting in the state of California that if you want to be an elected official in the state of California, like a representative, you do not have to live in the district that you represent. I thought that was interesting. So, anyway, so this is what's going on currently, and there are some vacancies, which,
The
Well, in
part that was
Massachusetts,
strange,
You can run for a lot of offices and not live in town. You have to move to that town before you're sworn in.
I don't know about that. You're supposed to have a residence in order to run.
correct.
That's why Hillary Clinton moved to New York State, so she could run for state senate. She had a residence there. And then the question becomes, like with at least one of the senators that we have in Massachusetts, how often, he may have a legal residence here, but how often does he ever come home? So let's not go there. There's a lot of problems with what's going on. And I've always stated that if you take the dead and the illegal people off the rolls, you might have a very different result as far as who gets elected.
Oh, yeah, there's an issue that nationally is a big problem. There are some states that don't update their voter rolls. Now take Oregon, for example. Oregon sends a ballot out to everybody on their rolls. I had a little discussion on Facebook with somebody who said, no, they don't just send out email ballots. You have to request one, you have to sign the form, you have to send the form in, and they send you a ballot, and they compare the request signature with the ballot signature, and I said, you don't understand the laws in Oregon. Everybody that's on the voter list gets a ballot, whether they're living or dead. If they're on the voter list, they get a ballot, and ballots come back. And generally speaking, the signatures are not checked. You know, everybody thinks that as every ballot comes in, this is every ballot in the state, everyone. They don't check the signature on the ballot for everybody, millions of ballots that come in. They just don't. You know, so there's the probability of having somebody that no longer is alive voting is kind of high. So the federal government is requesting that every state clean their voter rolls to ensure that the people that are on the voter rolls haven't moved to another state or died or something, or changed their name or something else. And some states, curiously, mostly blue states, are refusing to update their voting rolls. So that's a problem, you know. And having a picture ID and voting in person seems to me like the best way to get your ballot appropriately
Well, frankly,
counted.
Trump has the right idea. He hits them right in the wallet. You don't want to do that? No federal funding.
Well, yes,
Bam.
right. That's the leverage.
Well, he's now, the President of the United States is now creating a whole other department for fraud. So we can talk about that.
Brand new department.
Yep, and apparently there's so much of it, it's going to warrant having a brand-new department.
And why did Governor Walz decide not to run for re-election? It just sort of happened overnight, you know, shortly after he was tied to the $9 billion plus in fraud in Minnesota. And then the part I found amazing is that Ilhan Omar went from essentially zero net worth to $30 million in 2 years.
So there was something else since you brought her up, because we watched some of the news last night where somebody tried to throw some liquid or something on her.
Sprayed some, what they called apple cider vinegar on her or
Well,
something
whatever
like
it was.
that.
It could have
But-
been acid, so it was,
Yeah, it could
was
have
a
been.
bad,
It could have
very
been
bad
any number of
incident.
things. However,
You shouldn't do that to anybody.
however,
Very strange.
there was several strange things if you watch the video. What was one of them that the first thing that you noticed that she did?
First thing that I noticed that she did, so somebody's attacking you, you're giving a speech, right? Somebody's attacking you and they spray something at you. she raised her fist in the air and she ran right at the attacker, which is not a typical instinct.
Staged.
Yeah, that's what everybody's thinking.
I'm concerned about that. They're going to find out. They'll find out. But it was not, when you look at what you saw, when you look at what you saw and thought about it, why would she do that? You know, the guy was sitting right one row back, right in the aisle, directly in front of her, jumped up, and she didn't seem terribly surprised that he did that. Then when he sprayed her, she raised her fist to look tough and ran right at him. She's got security all around her. That's not the normal reaction.
I think if there's congressmen speaking, there should be a cop there. The town where they're speaking, there should
She
be.
had
security
security
there.
there, and they
Not
tackled it.
security, a real cop.
Well, I don't know if there was or wasn't.
Might have been
'cause I
real,
don't
but
remember.
they weren't in uniform.
But if anybody that's out there that's listening to this and they disagree with us saying, oh, how can you say that? Well, it isn't any different currently until you have an investigation with regard to that.
Yeah, wait for the
Then
investigation.
you, who would be disagreeing with what our view would be, also saying about the videos of the protests in Minnesota and what you thought you saw in those, just like what we thought we saw.
I'm just making
in
an
the ones we
observation.
have.
You know, nobody should attack anybody giving a speech like that, and, you know, in spite of how silly the speech might be. But, you know, I just found it odd that she took a very defensive posture and ran towards a guy who was in the process of being grabbed and tackled by her security. That's not a normal reaction. So you just let the investigation continue and determine what they find out.
Well, what did Trump do when he got shot in the ear?
He went to the
He
ground.
got shot. He got shot in the ear. As a matter of fact,
No, he didn't. He raised his fist.
No, that's after, when
Well,
he had
raised
all of
his
those
fist.
people around
It's a
him.
different color when it's the Republican.
Say that again.
She didn't raise her fist, and he didn't run towards the people that were trying to shoot him.
He hit the ground, and they have actual.
He raised his fist against the guy. Same thing.
what's-
Same thing.
She didn't do
It's
this.
not the- what are you
In
talking
defiance of the bullet being shot at him, that's what it was heralded as when it happened.
After the Secret Service picked him up off the ground, he could do two things.
He wanted his shoe back.
He could get carried away, or
What
he
kind of
could,
shoes he has?
or he could do something else that was more impactful. He decided to stand up and raise his fist
In
in defiance.
Yeah.
She didn't raise her
So did
fist.
this guy. In defiance, she went after the guy.
Well, he dropped to the ground when he was shot. Trump did. His first reaction was to get the hell out of the line of fire, which was the appropriate reaction
Okay.
when somebody's shooting
You're
at
right,
you.
Glenn. I'm wrong. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, anyway,
but
yeah, since we're talking about the state, we're talking about different things. There's another thing that this governor is also going to do. And what she wants to do is to move to get rid of, to end, debt-based driver license suspensions. So there's a list of them. If you have parking tickets, motor vehicle excise tax that you don't pay, abandoned vehicle tickets, court counsel fees, Tobin Bridge tolls, vehicle driven by a non-owner and a suspended license, failure to update name and address within 30 days of change, all that goes away through legislation in order that you do not lose your driver's license over any or some
So
of
if you have
those.
a legal violation for which there is an obvious penalty, oftentimes money, you know, she's saying that that's okay, you really don't have to pay, you can keep your license.
Yes, and so
Well,
what
how
the...
is it Middlesex Community College is free? Why didn't anybody bellyache about that? All the community colleges are free in Massachusetts
Yeah, you know why?
because we have too much money.
Well, because the money that they took from the surcharge on the people that make over the $1 million goes towards education. So they took and they put it towards higher
I
education.
guarantee you it's not paying the whole bill.
I'm certainly sure it isn't. But the thing is that because free can always have other pieces to it, which I can also
Well,
look
I
up.
find it terrible.
But that's why they decided to do that.
Well,
was
John,
because they
aren't
funded it that way.
all the lottery proceeds going to the cities and towns now? I mean, when they brought the lottery and they said all
With
the
no audit, how would you know?
Pardon?
With no audit, how would you know?
Well, you wouldn't know, but what we do know is that after the lottery after lottery funds got so high that they decided, in order to control them, they took the excess above some certain level that the government set and put it in the general fund. Instead of going back to the cities and towns, which is what it was intended for, they diverted the additional money, of which there was a substantial amount, to the general fund so they could decide how much money actually went back to the cities and towns and not the fact that they had excess funds from the lottery. It's a shell game. It's unfortunate, but it's true. Now, California, so what I was going to mention earlier is California and other states like New York, Illinois, California, Washington, they're going to lose congressional seats because people are moving away, and being deported. So they're going to lose congressional seats, and Texas is going to pick up some. Florida might pick up 4 congressional seats because people are moving to Florida. But the blue states are losing people rapidly, including Massachusetts, and the red states are picking up population because a lot of them have no income tax, no sales tax, and people are moving there to get away from the oppressive government in the blue states. And again, New York and Illinois and California are losing population.
Yeah, the other piece when we're talking about taxes is the price of gasoline has come down dramatically. But if you say, well, it isn't that in California, and it isn't that in New York State, well, I would ask if we just take a look at how much the gasoline is per gallon and then how many state taxes are assigned to every gallon of gasoline, and then you'll know whether or not it actually has come down. Now, we did make the comment about the community college, and I asked my telephone, are there any expenses for community education in Massachusetts? And the answer is, they are generally free of tuition and fees for state residents through the Mass Educate, Mass Reconnect programs, regardless of age or income. It covers the cost of attendance at all 15 state community colleges for students without a bachelor's degree. Some students may also receive funds for books and supplies. In order to do this, you have to be a Massachusetts resident for at least 1 year, eligible high school completers, and enroll in an improved program. They cover tuition and mandatory fees. So in answer to your question, John, these are the answers. They may also receive stipends for books and supplies. There are fees for some additional courses, and you have to complete the FAFSA or MASFA applications.
That's
so
right.
that must be, I don't know what that is, but.
It's a financial needs statement.
Yeah, well, I can find out what that is. What is FAFSA?
But anyway, that's another place where taxpayer money is going. And John, this is one of the reasons why people sign up to be elected as town meeting reps, because all the funds in Chelmsford, where they go and how much they are for, are determined by town meeting. Now, we're very fortunate to have a town manager who is, much less a politician and much more a manager than, previous people occupying that same position. So when you get the information from Paul Cohen or John Souza and the folks in our front offices at Chelmsford, you get good information upon which you can make decisions. And generally, the information we're provided is, adequately explained so that, almost 95% of the time, the town meeting reps agree with where the money is going because it's explained well and it's not wasteful. And a lot of people in town realize that taxes keep going up. There's nothing you can do about that. It's a little bit disturbing that the budget for the state goes up 3.8%, because generally speaking, people's wages are not going up 3.8%. Well, they may in the near future, depending on the economy, but 3.8% every year is a pretty good raise. So the state budget going up 3.8% is substantial, and it'd be interesting to have an actual audit by DeZoglio?
Yeah, DeZoglio, yeah.
Yeah, who actually looks like she knows what she's doing and is fighting her own party to get the information to explain to Massachusetts residents where their money's going. I think we deserve that. You know, so it's somebody, I would support the work she's doing, but how do you flip the representatives and the state officials who are looking in the face of a law that was passed by the population of Massachusetts by 72% and just say, well, we're going to ignore that? I mean, you know,
Well, they are.
does the judiciary step in? Well, most of the judiciary
They're
is.
guaranteed their positions. They don't care. So when I asked what a FAFSA was, I looked it up, and that's the federal application for student aid, for student aid.
Financial aid form, yeah.
Yes, so the MASFA is the one to apply to for Massachusetts for the community colleges. So that's the application, in case people want to know. And there's deadlines for that. It's all online. Everything is online. There's a lot of information that's out there.
You can get a good education in Massachusetts. That goes without
Right.
saying.
And even the public school education, even though there's an awful lot of stuff there that we really don't think the kids ought to be learning, when you take a look, at least prior to COVID anyway, if Massachusetts was its own country, we would be number one. They do a very good job.
Number one for what?
Education.
Okay, yeah.
When you put us all together, as far as the United States of America, it doesn't come up that way.
I'm going to read these real quick. One I can't transmit. It says, even if they find out it was staged, nothing will happen. Remember Jesse Smollett?
Oh, yeah. Perfect example of.
Moving on to the text now, Mary Gail Oliveira says that EBT also paid for the deposit on the soda. Interesting. Joe Espinola's having a party. It's going to be out to Lindsay's on Friday, week from this Friday. So 5 to 8 p.m. Hope to see you out there. And tomorrow's show, we're going to have Cliff Krieger, Eileen Del Rossi, and Regina Fanicanti. Time is short, kids. Thanks.
Well, we want to make sure that people in Chelmsford know that if you want to run for political office, applications are available at the town offices.
Town meeting rep, I think, is 10 signatures now, which is like almost your immediate family.
Wow, that's not bad.
No. It used to
no.
be 25, and then you'd have to get like 30 or 40.
It's 50 for select board members.
And school committee, and
And I
planning
still
board.
call them selectmen, but that's okay.
It's very difficult to get out of those types of habits, especially since we've done it for 40-plus years, living in town. But any of the elected offices, you have to have 50 certified signatures. So you always try to make sure that you have more than that. They have to be certified that the people that are signing are actually residents and registered voters in Chelmsford, or at least residents in Chelmsford. So we want to make sure you do that. We want to make sure people are aware that it's very cold outside. Please dress accordingly. Watch out for black ice. Sometimes things melt because they're putting salt down. And have you heard anything? Well, we only have like a minute and a half. Have you heard anything about the state running out of salt?
Nope.
Okay.
Running out of what?
Salt.
For the roads.
Yep, they have.
Oh.
The Keefe family polar plunge is postponed until March 14th. That's it. Too much snow at the beach. And they posted a little picture down the bottom here. Big disappointment to the Keefe family because it was supposed to be this weekend with the king tide. Too much snow on the beach. So postponed until March 14th. Back over you guys. We're almost out of time.
At these temperatures, a polar plunge is a bit extreme. Snow or no
You
snow.
got to get through the ice.
You know, my son came in from chopping wood the other day, and he sent me a picture of himself. He's got a beard and a mustache, and just icicles hanging all off his face. Great picture.
Nanuka, the north. But just be careful, like we said, in terms of everything, and hopefully your car will get started. Take a look at your tire pressures, and be prepared for any other inclement weather that might come our way, since we are in New England, and all you have to do is just wait a while. You never know what you're going to get.
And if the weather is very cold, which it is, it's okay to go out and start your car and let it run for 5 minutes, even if you're not going anywhere. It's a good idea to make sure the car will start.
Even if you're not going anywhere?
Even if you're not going.
I'm not going outside. Even
You
if
have
I'm not
remote
going
start.
anywhere.
You don't have to go outside.
Well, if you have remote start, use remote start. You can see it start, that's fine. Then you can shut it off, but You know, if you let the car sit for several days in this temperature, the battery will run down and it might be harder to start. So it's good to get the oil and the circulation in the engine going and the battery charged up a little bit. And you can do that in 5 minutes if you just start your car, remote or otherwise.
Well, anyway,
Go back to bed.
when
You don't have
we-
to go out, go back to bed. It's wicked cold.
When we first started and there was different things, I tried to define terms. Before you start accusing people of things, try to make sure that you do some research unless you're absolutely lazy and relying on other people. That before you accuse people of doing something, that you find out what is it I'm actually accusing them of. Because if you really don't know, you certainly sound stupid and
Yeah,
uneducated.
get the whole story and think.
Yeah, and think. Critical thinking. Have a great day, everybody. We hope you stay warm and safe and eat the right foods. We'll talk next week. Take care. And we're off in Chelmsford.
Yeah, but we look good here. This is not a bad image.
Computer is very pokey. Shut up.